This bind off is done with a wool needle, and that means that whenever we are ready to bind off stitches, we should cut the yarn, leaving a tail that is about 4 times as long as the bind off edge, and thread this tail into a wool needle. I'm going to use yarn in a contrasting color to make it easier for you to see every step of the process. Instead of trying to remember how to deal with the knit stitches and the purl stitches, we're going to take advantage of a simple fact that the stitches that we see as purls on the right side of the work show up as knits on the wrong side of the work. So we'll always think about joining knits and we'll use the same method, but we're going to flip the work from the right side to the wrong side after every step. Aside from this, there are 2 simple rules to remember. We join stitches in pairs, and we always go from front to back into the first stitch and from back to front into the next stitch. And we always go into each stitch twice. So we work every stitch twice. This is hard to do for the first knit stitch on the right side of the work and the first knit stitch on the wrong side of the work, because when we work back and forth, because there is nothing to the right of these stitches, there is nothing to join them to. We don't have this issue with the seamless projects when we bind off seamless projects, but when we work back and forth, then we have to do the extra step to join these 2 stitches together. And that's the step that is only required when we work, when we bind off stitches of the fabric worked back and forth. So how we do it? That's a setup step that we do only once. So we insert the tip of the wool needle from front to back, that would be left to right, into the first knit stitch on the right side of the work, slip the stitch off the needle, and then we flip the work so that we see the wrong side of the work, and we go from back to front into the first knit stitch on the wrong side of the work. And to do that, we have to go around the first stitch like this. And then we pull the yarn through, but we don't pull the yarn too tight. So this type of bind off is a little bit like embroidery. So we kind of making the edge look the way we want it to look. And to make it look nice, we have to leave the strand, this one on top of the edge, that is about as long as one leg of the stitch. So look at one leg of your stitch in the fabric and leave the strand that is about as long as that leg of a stitch. So this was a preparation step, and now we are ready to actually start binding off stitches. And we start with the right side of the work because in most cases the ribbing starts with knit 2 stitches on the right side of the work. So we go from front to back into the stitch that we've worked already, kind of already worked stitch. That would be this knit stitch over here. And then we go back to front into the next knit stitch. Remember, we always think about knit stitches. We always join knit stitches. We just flip the work to see different sides of the fabric. And then we slip the stitch off the needle and pull the yarn through again, forming that beautiful strand on top of the edge. Now we are done with the right side of the work. We move the work around the needle so that we see the wrong side of the work, and we look for the first 2 knit stitches on the wrong side of the work, and that would be this stitch and this one. So this stitch is already worked by our preparation step, remember? So we go again into this already worked stitch. We do it from front to back, slip the stitch off the knitting needle just to make it easier for us to maneuver the wool needle, and then we go back to front into the next knit stitch from the wrong side of the work. Slip the stitch as well and pull the yarn and form that beautiful strand on top of the edge like this. Now we go back to the right side of the work. So basically that's the 2 steps that we should repeat on and on and on. So right side of the work, then the already worked knit stitch front to back, the new knit stitch, the next knit stitch, which would be this one, back to front. Slip the stitch off the needle and pull the yarn through, form the strand at the top. Wrong side of the work. We look for the already worked stitch, which would be this little guy. And we go front to back. And then we look for the next knit stitch, which would be this one. So we have to go from back to front. And because this stitch is the second stitch from the tip of the needle, we have to go from the back like this. And we don't slip these stitches off the needle yet because this one is not secured. So we don't want the stitch to run away from us, right? Not when we are binding our stitches. And pull the yarn, form the strand on top of the edge. Right side of the work. We do the same. Already worked knit stitch, front to back, next knit stitch, back to front. This type of bind off has a very soothing rhythm. So once you get this idea of going right side, wrong side, already worked knit stitch, and next knit stitch, then it becomes really nice experience. When you finish all stitches, then we need to join the last knit stitch over here with the last stitch of the row, which would be the last knit stitch on the wrong side of the work. Just because we have to follow that rule of working into every stitch twice. And here we go. That's the beautiful edging. Of course, you can see it because it's done in a contrasting color. But when we work in the yarn, with the yarn in the same color, like this one, the edge is completely invisible. See, I left this little strand hanging because otherwise I wouldn't tell where the bind off edge is, because I used the Tubular cast on, which is a perfect match for this bind off. See, they look completely identical. So that's a perfect pair to use when you want to make the projects with matching edges. And when you're working in the round, when you bind off stitches of a seamless project, then you skip that first step that we did, joining the first knit stitches, and instead you finish off by joining the last stitch of the round to the first knit stitch of the round on the right side of the work and on the wrong side of the work. And then you will get a really nice, jogless, absolutely seamless look. For more details about this method, go to 10roseday.com/tubular-bindoff-2x2 rib. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.